to Lab Manager's Product in Action webinar series. My name is Mary Beth Didana, and I'll be moderating this discussion, Flash and PrepLC, How to Manage a Lab with Dual Needs. We like our webinars to be very interactive, so we encourage you to submit your questions to us at any point during this webinar. Our speaker will address your questions during the question and answer session following his presentation. To ask a question or leave a comment, simply type your query into the Q&A box located on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll try to address as many questions as possible during our time together, but if we happen to run out of time, I will forward any unanswered questions to our speaker, and he can respond to you directly if possible. I'd like to remind you that this webinar recording will be available on demand shortly following this presentation, so please watch for an email from Lab Manager on how to access this free video once it's available. Please visit the Handouts tab on the right-hand side of your screen for additional information about this presentation. I would like to thank our sponsor, Advion Interchim Scientific, for their support, which allows Lab Manager to offer these webinars free of charge to our readers. So with that, I'd like to introduce our presenter for this webinar. Nicolas Quetant is Product Manager, Preparative LC with Advion Interchim Scientific. Nicolas, thanks for joining us today.
Bonjour à tous. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Nicolas Quetant. I'm Product Manager at Advion Interchim Scientific, and I'm in charge of the PrepLC, the purification at high pressure. I'm going to start this webinar by a short introduction of our company. So let's move to the presentation. So Advion Interchim Scientific, so we manufacture and deliver solutions to improve the customer works in their daily challenge in identification, quantification, and purification needs, offering innovative instruments, consumables, reagents, and scientific expertise. Our portfolio is very large, from media and column to consumables, accessories, and instruments for flash chromatography, preparative HPLC, analytical HPLC, mass spectrometry, and also ICP-MS, all driven with friendly and easy-to-use application and software. In this webinar, we are going to cover the following points. First, the fundamentals of Flash and PrepLC, when each is required in the lab. Secondly, how having a system that operates both Flash and PrepLC can help in daily work. And to finish, how to switch easily between normal phase, Flash, and reverse phase. We will finish the session by a question slot. So let's start with a brief theoretical overview. Purification in liquid chromatography is always a question of compromise. You must take in consideration for each run the loading capacity, so you need to purify the maximum quantity in one time. You need to achieve the needs in terms of purity and the run time, because you need to purify shorter as possible. To help you in this task, you need to combine the right purification instrument with the right flash plastic column or the right stainless steel preparative column. What are the objectives? The objectives is first to separate the different compounds from a mixture. So you need selectivity by choosing the best stationary phase for your application. You need to achieve the purity needed and inject the maximum quantity in one time to increase as much as possible the productivity. In purification, the main objective is the profitability. So for your purification, how to choose between normal phase and reverse phase? It depends, of course, of the compounds that you have to purify. But generally, the normal phase with virgin silica is used for routine flash purification. And reverse phase with bonded silica is used for more sophisticated purification to increase the potential of separation. Increase the potential of separation means increase the resolution and also the purity. So for example, if you need to reach 95% purity, you must have a resolution at 0.8 between your compounds of interest. If you need more than 99.9% purity, you have to get at least 1.5 for the resolution. The easiest way to increase the potential of separation is to increase the efficiency of the column by decreasing the particle size. In purification process, so to purify huge quantity of products, silica with particle size from 50 microns to 30 microns are commonly used. For flash purification, silica with particle size from 50 microns to 15 are generally used, and smallest particle size for the PrepLC. When you reduce the particle size, you considerably increase the back pressure generated. So you must use the adapted system and column to withstand this pressure. The polypropylene flash column can only support few bars of pressure and can't be packed with particle size lower than 15 micron. This limitation doesn't exist with preparative column. The stainless steel hardware can withstand very high pressure, so we can pack them with low particle size stationary phase. To sum up, you need to select the right instrument with the right column regarding your target purity. For example, if you need to reach less than 99% purity, you need to have less than 1.5 for the resolution. To achieve this resolution, you can generally use virgin silica 15 microns or 30 microns in flash column in normal phase. That will generate only few bar of back pressure. At the opposite, if you need to reach more than 99.99% purity, you need to have 2 for the resolution. And in this case, you will generally use preparative column in reverse phase packed with 5 microns particle size that will generate more than 100 bars of pressure. But why should you have to choose between flash or prep instruments? The latest purification systems are not like those of the past. You don't have to choose between flash and PrepLC. No, you can have both with the ability to decide your needs with one user-friendly system. Like on the PuriFlash PF5 250 that I'm going to show you now. So this system can work up to 250 mil per minute at 250 bar without any compromise between flow rate and pressure. That means you can work at the maximum flow rate and the maximum pressure at the same time. It's an important point because you will be able to work above the optimum flow rate, in some cases, of course, to increase the productivity. This purification system is very flexible and offers a maximum of versatility. It can be used in normal phase and reverse phase with flash column and preparative column. On this system, you can have up to 3 column holders. One just there on the front of the system, and 2 others on the side. Column 2 and column 3. There is no dedicated column holder for Flash or Prep column. You can mix the column on the system up to you. The selection and the injection on the column are managed by a couple of valves. The first one, just here, is the repartition valve to choose between column 1 and column 2 or 3. The second valve, here, is the injection valve that can manage a dual injection. On this valve, you can put two loops. Loop number 1 here will be dedicated to column holder number 1, and the loop number 2 will be dedicated to column 2 and 3. That means you can work on this system with two different sizes of columns and adapt the volume of the loop and so the quantity injected for each one. You can also replace the loop by a dry load to manage this time direct injection with the dry loads. So you just have to remove the loop. So for example, I will remove loop number 1. And I can replace it by a dry load. We have two positions on the system for the dry load. This is the column holder for the dry load number 1, and we also have another dry load holder for the column number 2. So you just have to remove the loop and change the tubing to connect the dry load. So it's very easy and very quick to do. So that's why this system is very flexible. Now let's have a look at the pump. The pump is equipped with a quaternary gradient valve. So you can create quaternary gradient, or you can keep two ways for normal phase solvent and two ways for reverse phase. To switch from normal phase to a reverse phase or the opposite, you need to clean the tubing with a specific solvent, like IPA, for example. On the quaternary valve, you also have another way, just there, available that you can use with a cleaning solvent. So when you clean the system, you can use the third column position as a bypass in order to clean all the system from the pump to the outlet of the valve. So the solvent goes directly here to the valve, and instead to go into your columns, you go into this cleaning line just there to clean all the tubings. So then you can switch in few seconds, in few clicks on the software from one mode to the other without changing solvent bottles on the system or remove the column. The system is ready to use in all circumstances. At the outlet of the column, the flow goes into a fraction collector. This module includes the detectors. So by default, you have the UV 200, 400 nanometer, and you can have in option the UV extended. You have a direct access of the UV just here. for an easy maintenance, so direct access to the UV cells and the lamp. In option, you can also add the integrated ELSD. It will be located at the opposite side, just there, with also a direct access to the main part. With ELSD, even non-chromophore are visible. It has been designed especially for purification to avoid any clogging. And the technology, it's a low temperature technology. It works at only 35 degrees. So it can be used with thermosensitive compounds without any problem. An important point regarding the ELSD, it integrates the Saga technology. It corresponds to the automatic gain adjustment all along the purification route. So that means it adapts the gains to avoid saturation and continue to detect the small quantity of product. To work, the ELSD needs gas, so it could be nitrogen or compressed air at 1.5 bar. Finally, you can couple also the PuriFlash to the expression CMS. It's our single quadrupole mass spectrometer. So in this case, you can collect directly from your target masses. With the triple detection, UV, ELSD, and mass, you don't miss any compounds and have direct identification of the compounds in the collected fraction. So go back to the presentation. On this next slide, you can see an extract from our catalog. So it's a sum up with the technical specification of the system. So you can find the flow rate, 250 ml per minute, the maximum pressure, 250 bar, the quaternary gradient valve, the 3 column holders, the dual injection valve equipped with 2 loops, 2 dry loads, or 1 loop and 1 dry load, and of course the detectors, so UV by default, integrated ELSD, and mass spectrometer in option. The last slide represents the fluidic of the system equipped with 2 column holders, from the pump to the collection valve. With the 2 valves, and as an example there, one position is equipped with a flash column and the other with a preparative column. To conclude, I can say that the PuriFlash PF5 250 gives you the unique performance in every situation. It adapts to all the requirements of routine purification, complex mixtures, separation of impurities, trace enrichment, and so on. So the presentation is finished. It's time for the question. So feel free to ask.
Okay, thank you very much, Nicolas, for a wonderful presentation. So at this point, we are ready to move into the question and answer session with our audience. Again, for those of you who joined us late, you can send in your questions by typing them into the Q&A box on the right-hand side of your screen. Even if you don't have a question, we invite you to leave a comment. Let us know how you enjoyed this presentation. Let us know if you found the information useful. If you would like to see similar content from Lab Manager in the future, you can also use the emojis at the bottom of your screen to let us know how you enjoyed this webinar. And our speaker has helpfully provided his contact information on the screen in front of you. So if you would like to take note of that and reach out to him and the Advion team after the webinar, you may do that as well. So Nicolas, thanks again for a wonderful presentation. We already have some audience questions coming in, so let's get started. This first question says, where do you put the solvent bottles on the system?
Okay, that's a good question. So let's have a look on the system. If you look at the top of the system, you have a solvent tray, and on it you can put up to 5 bottles of 2.5 liters. So that means you can have 2 bottles for normal phase, 2 bottles for reverse phase, and another one for a cleaning solvent.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Let's move on to our next question. It says, regarding safety, is the system equipped with leak sensors or other safety options?
Yes, of course, we have many safety on this system. First, we have leak sensors that you can see just here. So so it's leak sensors to detect solvents. They are located at critical points on the system. So we have one here close to the pump, one on the side close to the valve, just there. We also have this detector close to each detector, so UV and ELSD, and one inside the fraction collector. We also have other options for the safety. So if we go back to the solvent bottles, you can see we have 2 tubings on each bottles. One is to pump the solvent, and the other one is to detect the level inside each bottles. So you have a physical detection of the level of solvents inside your bottles. We also have this detection, this physical detection for the waste. We have on this system also for the safety, it's a kind of safety, we have RFID detection. So it's an automatic detection for the column, the loop, and also the rack to avoid any mistake when you create your method. A last point for the safety, you can see just there inside the collector, you have a light color. So it's a light status of the instrument. It gives you the status of the instrument, and you know the status just by a visual check. We have one color by status. So in blue when it's standby, in green when it's in run, and if you have something wrong, it will light it in red. But it's important each time you have a problem on the system, we never stop completely the purification. We put the system on pause. You can solve the problem and restart the run.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. This next question says, what's the collection volume inside the fraction collector?
So the fraction collector is just there. Inside we have 3 racks, and on these racks, for example, here we put 18 millimeter tubings, and we have 132 tubings for this size. But you can choose to put smaller tubing from 9 ml to very high capacity, like bottles of 250 ml. And for very large collection, you can also use funnel connected to a big tank. And of course, you can mix the size of the racks inside the instrument.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. This next question says, can you please tell me the UV detector range again?
Yes. So for the UV, you by default, the range is 200, 400 nanometer. So it's the standard. And in option, you can have the pack UV extended from 200 to 800 nanometer.
Wonderful. Thank you. This question says, what are the largest size Flash and Preparative columns that can be used on the system?
So on the system itself, in column holder number 1, you can put column with ID up to 50 millimeter, and on the side 30 millimeter. But you can also use external column holder if you want to use bigger column.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. How do you collect the samples after separation because you want to purify them?
So all is managed with the software. On the software, you can decide how to collect the product from which signal. So you can put up to 6 channels on the software in the detection table, and you can mix for each channel if you want a UV detection, a single wavelength, a UV scan all the wavelengths on a range, or to have an ELSD or mass detection. And for each line, so for each channel, you can decide to collect or not from this signal. If you choose to collect from this signal, you have to enter a threshold. When the signal crosses this threshold, you start the collection.
Good, thank you. Are the 3 detectors all part of the system, or can a buyer pick and choose 1, 2, or 3 for budget management?
So the UV and the ELSD, so it's an integrated ELSD, has to be ordered when you order the system at the beginning. And for the mass, you can add it after.
Good, thank you. This question says, is there an automatic injector?
Yes, it's also an option. It's a peripheral. We can have an auto sampler that we can put on the left side of the system. And we put on this auto sampler directly a rack with your tubes like this. You can put on the auto sampler to manage automatic injection. And the objective of this auto sampler is just to fill automatically the loop installed on the system.
Great, thank you. This question says, what is the sampler setup? How many samples can be added? And what is the range of the loading volume?
So I can share you the technical data sheet, or you can find it on our website, Flash Chromatography. You can see, you will have a visual of this auto sampler because I don't have it there. And on this website, you also have all the size of rack that you can use for the sampler. It goes from very small tubings to also large bottles.
Okay, great, thank you. And to the person who asked this question, we do have your contact information. We could pass this on to the Advion team if you would like them to provide you some more information. And those of you in the audience, if you would also like more information, please just leave a question or comment in the Q&A box. We'll have a copy of your contact information. We will pass that on to Nicolas and the Advion team, and they'll be sure to get you the information you're looking for. Let's move on to the next question. This one says, is the sample charged to the column prior to assembly, or is it added in another location?
So the sample, if you make manual injection, you can inject the sample directly into your flash column by the top of the column if you want. Or you can use, of course, the valve if you change the view, okay? And here you have a manual port to inject your sample to fill the loop with your sample. So it's the way to inject liquid. Or you can also use dry load to make solid injection. So all is managed by the software. So you have to choose to make the equilibration of the column. And after the equilibration, make the automatic injection of your sample inside the column.
Wonderful, thank you. This next question says, can you assist remotely if the system has a problem?
Yes, of course. So you can put the system on your network, and we have a service team in all around the world that can assist you directly and make direct modification on the software in live.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Can you control additional external valves?
No, it's not possible. So you have two valves on the system. One, it's the repartition valve to choose between the column, and the second one is the injection. But you can't add any other valve on the system.
All right, wonderful, thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions. This one says, what do you have to do as far as maintenance per year?
So you have easy maintenance that you can do by yourselves, like changing the check valves on the system, changing the piston seals, a rotor for a valve, but that's all. It's a very robust system. And after, you can check with your service team, and we can also offer a preventive maintenance and some specific contracts for maintenance. But it's a very robust system with very less part to change. So you have check valves, some pistons, and rotors, and the lamp of the UV, of course.
Wonderful, thank you. We have time for one last question. This one says, can you do stack injection?
No, it's not possible for the moment. We will have to improve our system to do that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to put Advion's contact information on the screen one last time, so please take note of that if you would like to contact them following this webinar. But now this does bring us to the end of this webinar, and I would just like to remind you all that this webinar will be available on demand shortly following this presentation. Please watch your email for a message from Lab Manager once this video is available. On behalf of Lab Manager, I'd like to thank Nicolas Quetant for all the hard work he put into this presentation, and I would like to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. I would again like to thank our sponsor, Advion Interchim Scientific. Their support allows Lab Manager to offer these webinars free of charge for our readers. For more information on all of our upcoming on-demand webinars, or to learn more about the latest tools and technologies for the laboratory, please visit our website at labmanager.com. We hope you can join us again. Thank you and have a great day.